Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on May the 8th, 2017. Of course, this Raw hailed from the O2 in England, where you typically know how the crowd usually reacts and everything in that sense. You know how the UK crowds are. They're a little bit different from the US crowds on the aspect that most of the time they're a lot louder, a lot more vocal about the people that they don't like, everything in that sense. And it's not just like, oh, it's only on one particular superstar or another particular superstar. It's usually throughout the entire show. But the aspects behind these shows, and you kind of get it here again tonight, is that not that much actually happens on these shows in the sense of progressing the storylines and everything in that sense. They do that in a little bit of a way, and there was a couple things I did end up liking, but for the most part, this did not really further much in the terms of a lot of the storyline. So let's go right into it. They started off the show with Dean Ambrose backstage, and he gets a phone call from Kurt Angle saying, "I can't be there tonight." And now it's like he gets a call and then heads out to the ring. He reveals that Kurt Angle can't be here tonight, that he made him GM for the night, and he was talking about what was going to happen with the show and everything in that sense. Miz immediately interrupts afterwards, says he got a call from Stephanie saying she knows what Kurt was trying to do. She's not having it. If you're going to be GM for the night, he's going to be co-GM with him for the night. And they kind of got this back and forth feel. And then you get this little spot. It's like, okay, I guess we got to work together somewhat for the evening. And they get interrupted by, lo and behold, Braun Strowman, who is in a sling, by the way. And news did come out about this one. They used the torn rotator cuff angle to really hide the other injury, that he had injured his elbow. And probably during the actual backstage segment that they did at Payback with the ambulance, because it looks like that's where he had hurt his elbow initially. There was a couple of those door slams that may have looked like that could have done something to that. So Braun comes out there and he says he wants to finish off Roman, and then he wants to go on to Brock Lesnar. So it's like he doesn't care that he's hurt or anything like that. He wants Roman Reigns, and then he wants Brock Lesnar. He gets interrupted by Kalisto, who also, it says, like, I'm not done with you, Strowman. You almost ended my career, everything in that sense. Like, this segment was actually kind of fun in its own little right, of just, like, as a one-off area. And I did think the segment itself was a lot of fun. He talked about, I like the aspect of, Kalisto keeping up with the whole aspect of being treated like garbage by Braun and everything in that sense. So Dean Ambrose makes the match, and then Miz starts running off. It's like, okay, now you've ended this guy's career. You're putting him up against Braun Strowman. I know Braun's hurt and everything, but like you said, you could destroy him with one arm. Why are you doing that? And then of course, Ambrose not happy with that. Ends out making a match with Miz and Finn Balor, which goes on next. So Miz and Finn Balor, good match, decent enough match. The match itself came off as a little bit weird because they went a little bit out of the box on this one. Like I said, the initial match itself was fine. The ending towards that, the first portion of the match was Miz with the distraction of Maurice, pushes Finn into the referee and then uses his GM powers to basically disqualify Finn Balor, to convince the referee to disqualify Finn Balor. Of course, Dean wasn't going to have any of it. Gets the match restarted, and he bans Maurice as well. This match doesn't, in this portion of the match, doesn't last long because as soon as Finn gets him back in the ring, it was drop kick in the corner, coup de grace, and done. Like I said, the match itself was fine. Doesn't really do anything in the terms of Finn Balor. Like, a lot of the focus tonight in the terms of everything was focusing around Miz and Dean Ambrose and continuing on that storyline. In the terms of like Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor, you didn't get anything with that. You do get some kind of storyline progression as well with Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe, which I'll talk about here in a few moments. Because there's good parts to this show. I'm not going to lie on that one. It just felt like that not too much was really going on in the terms of building the story, other stories. Up next, though, you had a backstage segment where you had Alexa Bliss backstage, and she gets confronted by Nia Jax. And Nia Jax was basically talking to her, is like, so you ran down everybody last week. You didn't try running me down. And it's one of those bits like, did you actually mean that type thing? And it's like, well, of course, Alexa comes off as condescending and everything in that sense, but says, yeah, of course I meant everything that I said. It's like, well, I want a title shot if you think I'm that good. And or I want a title shot when you're done with Bayley. And she's like, well, I see what I can do, but I can't. Alexa's playing the whole aspect is like, well, I can't make the matches. I can talk to Kurt. That's all I can do. And it's like, well, and I like what Nia did here. It's like, well, I guess you have a new best friend until this happens. And then it's like, and then they go off. This does lead to the match right afterwards. I like this backstage segment because it played before I go on to the match with Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. I like the backstage segment because it plays off of the aspect from the week before where like Alexa was being condescending to everybody, but like when it came to Nia, she tried to be less condescending basically to go along with it, and it plays off this aspect now that until Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss happens, which it could happen, obviously, and they might go that route. It seems they have this catalyst to keep the belt on Alexa for the time being because you have Nia Jax in her corner at any given time. It just adds a little bit of a dynamic to it. Doesn't add too much, but it does add a dynamic towards the whole potential rematch between Alexa Bliss and Bayley down the line here. So let's go into the match itself. You had Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. I thought the match was fine. You had both Bayley and Nia Jax out there. Nia came out with Alexa, and then Mickie James comes out and she brings out Bayley. The only real downside to this one, it's not a knock on Bayley. It was just the aspect that you put Bayley out there in front of that crowd, and you know they're going to start singing. Because a lot of the crowd typically is in favor of Bayley, so it kind of drowned out anything Mickie James was doing to try to be a face character in any way, shape, or form here. You could definitely tell who the preferred babyface was there. It was Bayley, in that sense. Like I said, the match itself was fine. I liked the interaction with Bayley and Alexa after the match, where Nia tries to interfere, but Bayley does a crossbody try to help out Mickie James, but ends out that Alexa takes the advantage. It ends out winning the match, and then Alexa tries to continue the beatdown after the match, and Bayley chases off Alexa. They both run off to the back. And now you also have a potential program with Nia Jax and Mickie James because Nia destroys Mickie after the match to go along with it. So, not a bad segment overall. I mean, it adds a little bit of, like I said, it adds a bit of a dynamic between this whole Alexa Bliss Bayley match with the whole Bayley feud for the time being, with adding Nia Jax in there to go along with it. Doesn't add too much to the actual feud itself, but it does what it needs to do in that one. So let's see, where are we going to go next? Because they actually took a lot of time on some of this stuff, and there wasn't too much, there wasn't fully a lot about Monday Night Raw. In the terms of, I have very few notes for Monday Night Raw, so I'm actually almost halfway through them right now. Up next, you have Miz and Dean Ambrose backstage. They were talking about the whole GM duties and everything, and how both of them are trying to abuse their power and everything to go along with it. And you had Miz trying to say, it's like, well, I had a special Miz TV with somebody from One Direction and to go along with it, but it's like, no, there's no time with that. And then it's like, okay, Miz is like, what can I do? Oh, I'll make a match with Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt to go along with it. To go along with everything. Not a bad. Like, I'm liking the interactions between the two. It's just, like I said, we've seen these two interact with each other on Raw, not just on Raw now, but on SmackDown beforehand to go along with it. Not a bad segment. Miz is coming off a little bit better with everything in there, and you know, it is what it is right now, and we'll see how everything goes off. They did announce at the beginning of the show that it was like that Miz and Dean Ambrose were going to fight at Extreme Rules, but now it gets announced later in the show. It's like, no, it's not going to happen at Extreme Rules. It's going to happen next week to go along with everything. So you're going to get an Intercontinental title match next week. I wonder if they'll do one of those infamous Raw title changes. I don't know what they'll do there with that particular match, but it should be an interesting one. Like a lot of people have been saying, and I've been seeing it this year as well. Miz, I've kind of always been one of those subtle fans of the Miz. Like, I've always liked his heel work and everything in that sense. He's one of those guys that comes off as that guy you love to hate, and that's what a good heel character does. Like, he legitimately gets heel heat for what he does. So we'll see what they do with everything next week. Up next, you have Samoa Joe promo, basically saying in his very intense own way of saying it, because he was talking about breaking Seth Rollins' bones, popping his ligaments, everything in that sense. Basically saying it's like, you're not done with me. You may have slayed the king at WrestleMania, but you barely survived me at Payback. It wasn't like you went out there to destroy me, but you just squeaked away with a victory, and that's all you did. We're not done yet, everything in that sense. Seth Rollins hurt enough. He attacks Joe. They brawl throughout the backstage area, which does set up a match for later in the night. I like the backstage segment. I'm not the biggest fan of them making a one-on-one match here. I'll talk about that in a little bit more, but at this point in time, I'm saying is like, I'm not the biggest fan of them making a one-on-one match for just that night to go along with it. So it was what it was afterwards. But good backstage segment, and I'll talk about the match here in a little bit, because I do have my own thoughts about that particular match. Up next, you have Braun Strowman going up against Kalisto, or what it was supposed to be. The match barely gets started. Braun kind of tosses around Kalisto a little bit, and it immediately gets interrupted by Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns makes his on-TV return from Payback to go along with everything here as well. And actually, it's the first time he's been on TV since the initial like getting beaten down by Braun Strowman. He had only shown up at Payback. He didn't show up at the other Raws before Payback to go along with it. So this is the first time you've seen him on TV since then as well. The two of them just have a knockdown, drag-out brawl throughout the entire ringside area, which does have Braun take a little bit of advantage from time to time. He stands tall for himself from time to time, but Roman ends up standing tall in the end. And this is, and I said it earlier that Braun Strowman was actually injured. The injury was something to his elbow, to his one of his elbows, and that he would be out for like 6 to 8 weeks. So this is kind of their way of, writing him off. You even see Roman kind of focus on the arm a little bit in this brawl that the two of them had, and then eventually hits him a couple of times with the chair, which causes Braun to kind of run off, back away from the actual brawl that the two of them were having. So Roman ends up standing tall in this case, and it looks like we're not gonna see Braun for a little bit as well, which is very unfortunate, because Braun's been one of those, he's been not only one of those surprises, I think, to a lot of fans, he's been one of those very good points to Monday Night Raw over the last so many months. And it's just going to be unfortunate not to have him around, because a lot of people initially, when it's like, oh, it's Braun Strowman, okay, it's a big guy. Okay, and then stuff he's done on the mic, stuff he's done character-wise and everything had surprised so many people to like what he's capable of and what he's done. His stuff with the Big Show was really good. His stuff with Roman's been good too. Let's not downplay that at all. It's been good stuff. So it's going to be kind of sad to not have Braun Strowman around for a little bit. But hopefully it will only be like that short period of time, and he ends out getting his elbow fixed and gets back in there as quickly as he can, obviously, to go as quickly as he can without coming back still injured, is what I'm basically saying in that sense. So we'll be looking forward to seeing Strowman come back here at some point in time. Up next, you have the Golden Truth cutting a promo on the Tag Team Turmoil match, which their promo backstage was really good. Like, it made you want to feel like you wanted them to win the match. Everything in that sense. Just the two of them kind of having like that heartfelt talk before going out there. Man, I wish they would have switched the tables up on this whole Tag Team Turmoil match. Because the start of the match itself was Enzo and Cass going up against Cesaro and Sheamus. Sorry, I'm kind of pausing here for a few moments. Like, after the promo that they gave for the Golden Truth, I felt like they should have reversed the tables on this one of what they wanted to do going into this match, where you could still have Cesaro and Sheamus go over, but you make the Golden Truth look really good to doing it as well. Like, have them start the match and have to run the table. What they end up doing is they have Cesaro and Sheamus basically run the table. So they almost make them feel like baby faces in that sense, even though they try to get their heat back after the match itself by continually beating down the Golden Truth, which has the Hardys come out and Cesaro and Sheamus leave. It's like, this was very baby-facious for Cesaro and Sheamus to win the way they did. They basically had hard-fought matches with Enzo and Cass. Then they had it with Heath Slater and Rhino, and then of course the Club, and then the Golden Truth to go along with it. They have 4 matches, and they make it like each time it's like, okay, they've been worn down more and more and more. I feel like they could have done a little bit better here, because they make them come off as baby-facious in this sense by having them run the table and essentially not cheat to do it, to go along with it. It's not even like they were doing a whole aspect of cheating or anything. They were just being badasses to go along with everything. And they weren't really trying any type of heel type tactics until after the match, where they try to get some heat on them. On Cesaro and Sheamus by continually beating down the Golden Truth afterwards, which had the Hardys come out and, of course, Cesaro and Sheamus leave. I feel like they could have reversed the roles here, and it would have come off a little bit better. Otherwise, it was a fine Tag Team Turmoil match. Otherwise, it was fine, but that's just how I felt in the terms of the character building to go along with everything. Stumbling over my words again. To go along with everything there. Up next was Samoa Joe going up against Seth Rollins. Now, here's the one aspect that I didn't like about this, is that you have that backstage brawl, and then it leads to a match. And that oftentimes happens on Monday Night Raw. Let's not get that wrong and everything in that sense, or even on SmackDown or most wrestling shows. It leads to a match later in the show. And now, let's not get this wrong. The match was very good. I like the match between the two of them. Also, the area of the DQ finish I thought was good, because it continues on everything. You don't get a decisive winner or anything in that sense for that one, but you have a decisive advantage going to Samoa Joe. But I feel like they should have made this match shorter to get to that exposed turnbuckle spot, because they took a lot of time for this match to completely build up and everything in that sense, going to the finish, which was Joe using the exposed turnbuckle once by accident, and then of course afterwards, which caused the DQ, allowing Seth Rollins to get the victory, and then Samoa Joe continues on the beatdown and puts the coquina clutch on Seth Rollins after the match itself. Not bad. I don't think it really adds much to I don't think it really adds much to their story because, yeah, you could get a stipulation for their match at Extreme Rules, what you would assume would be a match at Extreme Rules. But, again, you've seen, not only on Payback, a relatively long, good match between the two of them, and then you get another really good match here, a long match to go along with it as well, here on Raw, but it just ends in DQ. I feel like they could have made this one a little bit shorter, and it would have worked out a little bit better in the end. Up next was TJ Perkins. It's weird that he's just going by TJP now. Going up against Jack Gallagher. Not bad here. Not a bad match. I thought the match itself was fine. It was a good way of getting heat on TJP. Again, another hometown, home country. I'm not sure if that's Jack Gallagher's actual hometown. I don't think it is. But home country person ends out losing in the end. So they try to put some heat on TJ Perkins, who ends out winning the match. Was it with the knee bar? I forget exactly how he ends up winning the match, but he does put the knee bar on again. Knee bar on Jack Gallagher after the match, trying to take out his knee, which prompted Austin Aries to come out. You did have a backstage segment with Neville and TJ Perkins as well. But, you have Neville saying, it's like, you need to do these things to try to get a title match. And it's like, okay, I could talk to Kurt if you do these certain things. So he wanted him to go after Jack Gallagher tonight, which, of course, prompted the knee bar after the match. And, of course, Neville was on commentary to go along with everything. So he's there kind of basking in the glory and everything in that sense of it. And then, of course, Austin Aries ends up making the save, which causes Neville to kind of flip out. It's like, wait a minute, what is he doing here? type thing. Not bad stuff. I thought this was fine. It kind of continues on the whole thing of Austin Aries and Neville, but you have this sub-storyline with Austin Aries and TJ Perkins. And TJ Perkins itself is kind of the sub-storyline. It's like, are they going to make this a triple threat style match or something in that sense down the road here with these guys? And what are they going to end up doing with them in the end? I actually kind of like this one. It was the only stuff they did with the cruiserweights all night, and I thought it came off rather well because it came off as one of those things that, they were trying to further the storyline, which they did. They did a good job there. Like I said, not all of this stuff did a really good job of furthering the storylines tonight, but I thought this particular match did do so. So before the main event, you had Sasha Banks going up against Alicia Fox. This was a really quick match, but these two, the way that they come off in the ring and everything in that sense, you kind of get that feeling that the two of them don't like each other. It's legit that they don't like each other. It's not just them playing a role of not liking each other. The match itself is rather quick. Sasha Banks going over. Though it seems like they're going to continue on something here because they played a replay afterwards showing that Alicia Fox's shoulder was up, but the referee doesn't see it. And so I assume they're going to be doing more of that. I don't know where they're really going with this, or they're just biding time for Sasha Banks for a little bit until her next actual feud for whoever it's going to be up against. Hopefully the heel turn, finally, for her to go along with it. So we'll see where they end up going with that. But otherwise, quick match, nothing really much to talk about. Up next was the main event, which was Bray Wyatt going up against Dean Ambrose. These two put on good matches, and my only gripe about this one is that, okay, Miz is, yes, he's going after Dean Ambrose, he's going after the Intercontinental title, but why does he forget that Bray Wyatt attacked him a few weeks ago? After he come out right before Payback, he hit him with a Sister Abigail. So Miz is just so I guess in Miz's mind, it's okay, he's fighting Dean Ambrose. I don't care the fact that he had attacked me a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go ahead and help Bray Wyatt win this match. and that was the only real thing about it that kind of like irked me. It was like a little bit of the continuity is like you did get a little bit of it where after he had helped Bray Wyatt win, that he was kind of hesitant to get in the ring, which I thought was at least decent continuity from Miz on that one. It does play off of the aspect that Miz is willing to forget about what Bray had done to him in the terms of trying to get one over on Dean Ambrose, but he also still recognizes, like, he can still attack me again, so I'm going to be hesitant to get in the ring. So he waits until Bray leaves, and then he basically holds the Intercontinental title over Dean Ambrose to end the show. Like I said, this was a good match. I was okay with it. You had little bits of weirdness on this whole aspect. It's like, oh, Miz is totally willing to help out Bray Wyatt, even though he got hit with a Sister Abigail a couple weeks ago for no reason whatsoever, ever, other than Bray Wyatt didn't like the fact that he had touched his shoulder. So that was just one of those things about it. Overall, this week's Raw was okay. It wasn't bad. Crowd was hot throughout the entire night, though. That's always one of the good things to see with a good live crowd on the show itself. Just being into pretty much everything that was going on out there. They were kind of into it. There wasn't really much of a downtime with everything in the terms of the crowd itself. But in the terms of storyline building, some of the stuff I felt like they did a good job with. I like the Golden Truth promo, but then they go this other route where you have Cesaro and Sheamus run the entire table of the tag team turmoil side of everything. I like the stuff with the cruiserweights tonight as well. And I liked certain aspects of other things. I like that opening segment for like the one-off and everything in that sense. The stuff with Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman I thought was pretty good as well. And the backstage segment with Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe I thought was really good as well. The match I thought was also really good. It was just like, I think they gave a little bit too much of that match out tonight. And that was my only downside to it. But otherwise, really good match between the two of them. And the stuff with Miz and Dean Ambrose throughout the entire night as well, I thought was relatively good. Not necessarily great, but relatively good. And of course, you didn't get any interaction with Finn Balor or Bray Wyatt in that sense either. So that kind of, like, where are they going with that is still left up in the air with everything. So, that being said, guys, that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.